Now at 10, Gabby Petito's cause of death revealed. Her family demanding answers with Brian Laundrie still on the run.
Vaccine mandate showdown, multiple judges issuing different rulings affecting a slew of employees and customers of businesses.
And lawmakers in Washington just approved a short-term hike of the nation's debt limit. Why this isn't actually going to solve the problem. But first.
This is breaking news from PIX11.
That breaking news, a woman likely to die tonight after being shot in Brooklyn. These are live pictures from the scene at Georgia Avenue and Belmont Avenue in East New York.
Yeah, the shooting happened right around 8:45 tonight. The victim, a woman in her 30s, was taken to Brookdale Hospital. At this point, no word on any suspects. We, of course, will bring you any new information as it comes in tonight. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm Tamsin Fidel.
I'm Corey Chambers. Now to our other top story tonight. Gabby Petito's cause of death, strangulation. That's according to autopsy results released today, almost a month after the Long Island native's body was discovered in Wyoming.
Yeah, well, this afternoon, Gabby Petito's parents visited the memorial for their daughter near their home in Blue Point. And now that we know how Gabby died, her body will be returned to her family so she can be laid to rest.
But the Petitos, they will not be able to rest until some very important questions are answered.
The manner of death of Gabrielle Lenora Petito, we find the cause and manner to be death by strangulation.
With those words, the Teton County coroner put to rest rampant speculation about how 22-year-old Gabby Petito died while on a cross-country road trip with Brian Laundrie, her fiancé, and the sole person of interest in both her disappearance and death. The coroner didn't comment on Petito's condition at the time of discovery, including whether her remains were buried or exposed, but he did reveal how long they were likely in the forest at Grand Teton National Park.
All I can tell you about remains is that the body was outside for 3 to 4 weeks.
He also said the exact day she died may never be known. Still, we can infer it was late August. Laundrie returned home to Florida on September 1st in Petito's white van. Her family reported her missing on September 11th. It was September 13th that Laundrie was seen for the last time. Petito's body was found on September 19th.
He grabbed my face like this. He didn't hit me in the face.
This body camera footage of Petito describing how she says Laundrie grabbed her face is now even more eerie, with the ruling of death by strangulation. Police in Utah pulled the couple over on August 12th after someone said they saw Laundrie slapping Petito.
I know I shouldn't push, but I was just trying to push her way to go. Let's just take a minute, step back and breathe.
But they were only separated for the night. Laundrie family attorney Stephen Bertolino issued a statement in response to the autopsy, reading, "Gabby Petito's death at such a young age is a tragedy. While Brian Laundrie is currently charged with the unauthorized use of a debit card belonging to Gabby, Brian is only considered a person of interest in relation to Gabby Petito's demise. At this time, Brian is still missing, and when he is located, we will address the pending fraud charge against him." Petito's mother, Nicole Schmidt, fired back in a text to a reporter at our sister station in Tampa. His words are garbage. Keep talking. Now, according to the Petito family attorney, no other statements will be made by the family until Gabby's remains are brought home. They're currently with a local funeral home in Wyoming. Her parents have said that she will be cremated.
Meanwhile, tomorrow marks 1 month since the last time anyone saw Brian Laundrie. Authorities right now still combing the state of Florida for him. We, of course, are going to have a live report from Florida, courtesy of News Nation's Brian Enton, coming up at 10:45 tonight.
Now to the battle over vaccine mandates. It's being fought in courtrooms and in the court of public opinion.
It sure is. Well, tonight, 2 of America's biggest airlines, American and Southwest, say they will ignore an executive order by Texas governor that prohibits mandates even for private businesses.
In our area, vaccine mandates are being fought, but with mixed results. PIX11's Jay Dow is live for us in East Harlem with more tonight. Jay.
Corey, race and religion, the latest legal arguments being used by critics and opponents who are trying to figure out a way to get around the vaccine mandate. COVID vaccine mandates in New York on both the local and state level remain the subject of intense legal challenges, yet they remained on the books. Locally, a federal judge ruled Tuesday against a claim of racial bias in the de Blasio administration's proof of vaccination requirement for gyms, indoor dining, and other entertainment venues.
I really appreciate the fact that steps are taken to keep my community safe.
Gloria Bell Perez, co-owner of the East Harlem eatery Barsha, says she believes the mandate was drafted with the best of intentions and applies to everyone. But Perez adds it is still important to acknowledge her industry still often struggles to accommodate hungry diners who show up unvaccinated, whether it's because of hesitancy, skepticism, or other reasons.
There needs to be a more narrowly tailored approach based on the community. You know, for some communities, you have low vaccine turnout because of access to the vaccine. For other communities, it's because of this inherited trauma.
In a separate case, a federal judge denied a group of teachers who attempted to cite religious and medical reasons for their exemption to the vaccine mandate for New York City Department of Education employees. Finally, in upstate New York, yet another federal judge let stand Governor Kathy Hochul's vaccine mandate for healthcare workers, as long as the mandate includes a process in place to allow for religious accommodations.
You have to have what's called an ultimate belief about life, death, or purpose. It's not your politics, it's not your philosophy, it's about purpose.
Employment attorney Andrew Lieb.
As you and I talk vaccine, and I think that's important, you and I saying vaccine, but from the judge's perspective, it's about what procedural laws are really happening. And it's a good headline to say vaccine, but that's not really what the litigation's all about underlying it all.
And this debate is not over. Another group of teachers will be back in court later this week trying to put a halt to the vaccine mandate for Department of Education employees. We're live in East Harlem tonight. Jay Dow, PIX11 News.
All right, Jay, thank you.
Well, major news from the NBA tonight. The Nets are banning star Kyrie Irving from playing or practicing with them until he gets vaccinated.
Yeah, the season opener is just a week away. So will he get this shot and play or will he not? Andy Adler joins us, and boy, this saga, I mean, this has really turned into quite the soap opera.
Yeah, it never ends. Distractions, they're never a good thing, but when you're trying to win a championship, there's just no room for it. And that's why today the Nets told Kyrie either you're all in or you're all out, period. Now, we've been discussing it. Here's what's going on. Kyrie, he doesn't want to get vaccinated. That's his right. But this has become, again, an ongoing saga between the Nets and Kyrie. He can't play in any home games because of the city's COVID restrictions. And then the plan was, okay, so he's going to play in away games and practice with the team, but that's no longer the plan. Today, the Nets told Kyrie, it's all or nothing. You're either in or you're out. And for now, Kyrie's out.
Kyrie's made it clear that he has a choice in this matter. And it's ultimately going to be up to him what he decides. You know, we respect the fact that he has a choice and he can make his own and right to choose. As again, right now, what's best for the organization is the path that we're taking. And I don't want to speak for Kyrie. You know, at the right time, I'm sure he will address his feelings and you know what the path may be for him.
Okay, so the Nets also released this statement. I want to share some of it with you here. We will not permit any member of our team to participate with part-time availability. It's imperative that we continue to build chemistry as a team. Our championship goals for the season have not changed, and to achieve these goals, each member of our organization must pull in the same direction. Okay, so it's worth noting that Kyrie, he's still going to get paid for away games, even though he's not going to be there. And now we're hearing some new reports on exactly why Kyrie won't get vaccinated, and it's pretty interesting. We're going to talk about that coming up in sports. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
So I looked it up, Andy.
Yeah.
He was going to get paid $35 million for his third year with the Nets.
Right.
If he doesn't get the vaccine, he still makes like $20 million.
I think he's just doing just fine.
Or rather, $16 million.
That's some quick math, and you know what? He's doing just fine.
Yeah, regardless. All right, thank you for that, Andy. All right, a number of Americans who got the Pfizer vaccine, they're rolling up their sleeves for the booster shot, you know that, but millions who got the two other vaccines, they are waiting to find out if it will be their turn and when that might happen. The FDA will hold meetings on Thursday and Friday to discuss whether boosters should be given out for Moderna and Johnson & Johnson's vaccine, and if so, who should get them and when. The final go-ahead is not expected for another week. The FDA advisors give their recommendation first, then the agency makes an official decision on whether or not to authorize these boosters.
Yeah, a lot of people wondering, is it going to be a booster? Is it going to be another shot? And then how soon can you get it once it's actually approved? That's going to be the big question, if it's a booster. All right, after a rocky start, Disney's allowed to return to Broadway tonight after being shut down due to COVID.
After only 2 performances, the show was forced to close again because of breakthrough COVID cases among cast and crew. Ticket holders, they were turned away on October 1st, just hours before showtime. Well, Disney Theatrical Productions released a statement saying the 12-day pause gave the show ample time to make sure anyone with breakthrough cases were covered.
This all comes, of course, as Broadway shows reopened last month after being closed for more than 18 months due to the pandemic. All right, well, still to come, lawmakers just approved a hike to the nation's debt limit. What comes next and when this will have to be addressed again? Yeah, plus sparks fly in New Jersey's final gubernatorial debate.
It's always the previous administration's fault or Donald Trump's fault. Okay? So that's because it's the truth.
We'll have the highlights from another heated meeting between Governor Murphy and Republican challenger Jack Ciattarelli. And caught on camera, the chilling moment a grandmother saves a little girl from being kidnapped in the Bronx. Wait till you see this video. We are back in 90 seconds.
You're watching the PIX11 News at 10 with Tamsin Fidel, Corey Chambers, Mr. G with your weather, and Andy Adler with sports. We're New York's very own.
So a little girl is safe at home with her family tonight after a stranger snatched her from her grandmother's hands. This happened in the Bronx.
Yeah, the disturbing incident was caught on video, and you can see the moment. 27-year-old Santiago Salcedo walks up to the grandmother. Look at this. Tries to run off.
Oh my gosh.
With that 3-year-old in the video. It really is a disturbing moment. Thankfully, Good Samaritans able to stop him. He was arrested a short time later after police found him sleeping in the doorway of a nearby restaurant. He told detectives allegedly that voices in his head made him do what he did.
And PIX11 is your local election headquarters. The men running for governor in New Jersey, well, they just wrapped up that second debate.
Democratic Governor Phil Murphy and his Republican opponent Jack Ciattarelli trying to make their case and win over voters. PIX11's Marvin Scott joins us now with the latest. Marvin.
Well, Corey, this was the final debate in what has been quite an acrimonious campaign between the incumbent governor and his Republican challenger. There was no shortage of issues during the hour-long verbal slugfest. The pandemic, that's been one of the top issues, and the mask mandate, which Jack Ciattarelli opposes, came up first.
Listen, I always feel there's a way to do this when we get together and find a way to get it done during these very, very difficult times when there's strong disagreement over how best to go about handling this pandemic.
I have to answer this thing about masking. Are you wearing a mask right now? Are you wearing a mask? We're on stage. I've done 227 COVID updates. I wear the mask on stage as I did tonight, take it off, speak, and put it on when I leave. And it's quite clear what the playbook is. Vaccinations and masking, whether it's in school or generally, that is the playbook.
And abortion was another hot-button issue and legislation to further protect a woman's rights in New Jersey.
But the reason why this bill hasn't been sent to his desk by a legislature that's overwhelmingly controlled by Democrats is because they know it's a bad bill.
I will be very happy if you're right about Roe v. Wade, but I'm not expecting that, sadly, with this Trump-packed Supreme Court.
They talked about funding for mass transit, creating more affordable housing, and police reform as well. Governor Murphy, he reserved his sharpest blast at his opponent when they both wrapped up.
Men and women in blue, the people that work at every level of police that try to protect us every day, and I want to get back to basics in teaching critical life skills in our schools.
We have to keep moving forward. We cannot go backward, and we cannot afford an extreme leader. There's so much on the ballot. There's so much at stake. Do we stand with our sacred democracy, or do we stand with Confederate flags and white supremacists and a pack of lies?
Now, that's just some of the highlights of tonight's debate. To be seen yet is whether tonight's debate will shift the needle in the polls. Governor Murphy's lead has been narrowing in recent weeks, but he still holds an advantage in a state where there are 1 million more Democrats than Republicans. So, who won this debate? Well, we'll get that answer 3 weeks from tonight after voters cast their ballots. Today, incidentally, was the last day to register to vote, November 2nd, but you have until October 26th to apply for a mail-in ballot. Tamsin, Corey.
All right, Marvin.
A lot of energy in that room, right?
Yeah.
All right, with just weeks away from the New York City mayoral election, both candidates, Curtis Sliwa and Eric Adams, they're ramping up their campaigns. Ina Harry is going to have the latest on the race coming up tonight at 10:30 for us.
Well, in Washington now, members of the House just pushed through a short-term increase in the nation's debt limit.
Yeah, that will ensure that the federal government can continue fully paying its bills right into December. But it is a temporary fix. Alexandra Limon explains why tonight.
Earlier in the night, Republicans tried to block Democrats from voting to raise the debt ceiling at all by trying to adjourn the House session. That motion failed, and the House did vote to raise the debt ceiling, but the measure will only keep the country afloat for about 6 weeks. Republicans were once again lining up to vote no on raising the nation's debt ceiling.
We have folks on the other side of the aisle just in the last 30 minutes that have said we should not have a debt limit.
Please forgive me if I vote no to rack up more debt for my kids and grandkids.
Congressman Tom Cole complained about what he called a rushed process.
Democrats aren't even willing to put up with an hour of debate on a measure that increases the debt ceiling by $480 billion.
Cole said if the work had been bipartisan, then the votes would be too. But Democratic Congressman Jim McGovern says Congress has been debating the issue for weeks.
It's absurd to somehow suggest that people don't know what we're doing here. We actually had a full debate and a vote on increasing the debt ceiling.
McGovern says today's vote is simply to approve revisions made by the Senate and avoid a financial meltdown.
My Republican friends seem content on just driving, the car off a cliff. It would be disastrous if we were to default.
The changes by the Senate to the bill will only stave off a financial crisis until December. Speaker Pelosi says Congress needs to stop bickering about the debt and pass a law to take politics out of it.
Puts the responsibility on the Secretary of the Treasury to make the determination to lift the debt ceiling.
Democrats say they would prefer for Congress to vote to raise the debt ceiling for a longer period of time in a bipartisan way, which is something that's been done more than 80 times in the past, including during the previous administration. Reporting in Washington, Alexandra Limon.
All right, we should talk about the weather outside because it's been awfully nice.
Yeah, very, very nice. We can get a little spoiled in all this. Hi, G.
Yeah, and it's going to stay that way. I mean, that's the big story. The mild conditions here in the east will continue in the next 72 hours. And you look at the temperatures tomorrow, right around 73 degrees for a high. Keep in mind the normal should be right around 66. How we doing? We're doing about 3.5 degrees above normal today for the month. Now, what's happening is the winds are going to kick around a little bit more to the south and west, and that's going to keep the mild air in place and keep it coming. And maybe a few clouds, play peekaboo tomorrow, spurts here and there, nothing to worry about. And then we continue with the surge of west-southwesterlies on Thursday when temperatures approach 80 degrees, and on Friday, a better chance at 80 degrees. Now, the Wild West is really wild, and in the Midwest we got tornadic activity, tornado warnings in portions of Oklahoma. Why? Because there's a convergence of very, very cold air coming down from the north and mild air coming out of the Gulf of Mexico, and bang, there it is right across Oklahoma. And once again, the west will get the best of the cool air, and here in the east we will cool down finally the early part of next week. So circle the 18th or so when weather conditions once again will cool down. Honey of a forecast for the next 72 hours. What about the weekend? Next 7 days. We got that later on.
All right, we'll take it, G. Thank you.
Well, still to come, cracking down on aggressive drivers, the steps Westchester is taking to reduce traffic violations.
Yeah, plus open street controversy. Why some neighbors say the program is doing more harm than good. We'll explain when we're right back.
Was an initiative created to help city communities navigate through the pandemic. But tonight, the Open Streets program has neighbors and transportation advocates raising some red flags.
Yeah, they say that some neighborhoods are being prioritized while others are being left behind. PIX11's Greg Mocker joining us now from the Mont Haven section of the Bronx with more on all of it. Hi there, Greg.
Hi, Tamsin and Corey. It's certainly high on our wish list, open space and a place to move around. The advocacy group Transportation Alternatives did a survey, and they say they found support for the program. They're pushing to make it permanent and more fair. These neighbors always try to make the most of their block in the Bronx. This part of Jennings Street has been included in the Open Streets program, run by volunteers who put out gates during certain times. But as happens at a number of the locations around the city, barriers get ignored or the schedule's uncertain. Sometimes the gates get moved. Sophie Merowitz helps keep an eye on Avenue B in the East Village.
Open streets in wealthier neighborhoods such as Vanderbilt Avenue and Fifth Avenue and Park Slope, they have the staff and have had funding up until this point to fully close the street and make it a true pedestrian and cyclist paradise. Whereas here, we're all volunteer run.
Not all open streets are created equal, says a report released Tuesday by Transportation Alternatives. The advocacy group says it surveyed the open street locations listed by the city this summer. This is from the Transportation Alternatives report. They titled the graphic, Open Streets Mileage Unequal. They counted the miles of designated open streets this summer, borough by borough. The Bronx had the smallest, Manhattan had the larger number.
Open streets are a really great and easy way to give open space back to communities that desperately need it. The fact that the communities that need it most have been left out of the program truly is truly inequitable.
The city also lists the open streets on the Department of Transportation website. The Bronx has the fewest here as well. A spokesperson says the Transportation Alternative Survey does not have updated info. The city says there are 47 miles of open streets, and city crews actively and frequently check on the status. Quote, equity and fairness have been central to the program from the start, and the city's doing outreach to neighborhoods that lack community groups or business improvement districts so they get the support necessary to take part in the program no matter what.
There's a lot of permanent barricades and fixtures that can be done and just aren't being invested in right now.
What is the use of our streets, how to share them? That is an ongoing conversation that will continue into the next administration as well. It certainly has started when it comes to the open restaurants program, and this will factor into that in the Mott Haven section of the Bronx. Greg Mocker, PIX11 News.
All right, Greg, thank you.
All right, coming up, the latest on the race for New York City mayor, why one candidate's receiving support from voters of the opposite party right now.
Plus, hitting the brakes on LaGuardia Air Train, why the project was put on hold.
And the uncertain future of New York's gifted and talented program and the pushback from parents as well as lawmakers. We'll be right back.
You're watching the PIX11 News at 10.
From Upper Manhattan to Brownsville, Brooklyn, the leading candidates in the race for New York City mayor blaze a campaign trail today, trading some harsh words for each other. Thanks so much for staying with us tonight. I'm Tamsin Fidel.
I'm Corey Chambers. Tonight, PIX11's Anna Harry is looking at how the candidates are planning to win over voters as we enter the final stretch of this race.
Squash, okay. I have a nice meal made of this with raisins.
Sprouting squash, green kale, and ripe peppers, all in the heart of Brownsville, Brooklyn. Inside the Campaign Against Hunger's urban farm on Eastern Parkway, Democratic mayoral candidate Eric Adams sees opportunity for growth.
We can show people how to grow food in their backyards.
21 days until the general election, and the Democratic and Republican candidates for mayor were out working for votes. Ben Max is the executive editor for Gotham Gazette.
I do think more voters will tune in, as they always do, in the lead up to the election.
Adams shared his plan to create greater access to fresh fruits and vegetables. He wants to create a database to monitor and ensure that there's fair access to nutritious food throughout the city.
Our children are growing up believing ketchup is a vegetable. We need to change this mindset.
In Upper Manhattan, Curtis Lee will work to change the mindset of voters who do not traditionally vote for Republicans. Today he launched Democrats for Sliwa.
There are a number of men and women from throughout the city who have contacted us, who have said that they're just not on board with their candidate, Eric Adams.
Sliwa was endorsed by community leaders, including Carmen Quinones, a NYCHA tenant president, who praised the Guardian Angels.
We had 2 shootouts on the Upper West Side, and I called Curtis Sliwa.
Once again, Sliwa sounded off, insisting Eric Adams is avoiding him on the campaign trip.
Adams knows he seems to be in comfortable position, so he doesn't want to engage too much.
This afternoon, Adams said he will not engage in Sliwa's antics.
If he wants to participate in the circus, that's fine. I'm just not buying the tickets.
Ayana Harry, PIX11 News.
Well, New Yorkers are weighing in on how they think Governor Hochul is doing 50 days into her term.
Yeah, Marist released a new poll today on Hochul's job performance. Take a look. About half of New Yorkers surveyed say they approve of the job the governor is doing. 31% saying they disapprove, and 20% right now are still unsure. The governor will likely face Democratic challengers next year in the state primary.
Marist also looked at how that matchup might go if it were held today in a three-way race between Governor Hochul and potential challengers Attorney General Letitia James and Public Advocate Jumaane Williams. Hochul remains on top. James follows with 28%, then Jumaane Williams with 15%. At least 13% said they were unsure. Remember to stay with PIX11, your local election headquarters, as we barrel towards Election Day. You'll find the latest political news at PIX11.com. Well, tonight, a shocking new study on deaths in New York prisons.
Yeah, the study reveals in the last decade, more people have died behind bars than in the 300-year period where the state executed inmates. Researchers say over 1,200 inmates have died since 2011, with African Americans making up a majority of those numbers. 56% of the deaths we're talking about involve somebody over the age of 55, and 1 out of 3 involves someone serving a sentence of at least 15 years. Some recommendations to fix this include addressing aging in prison through the elder parole bill.
Meanwhile, more calls to shut down Rikers Island. Advocates rallied today in their city hall, urging the next mayor to correct what they call failures by the de Blasio administration. They also called for alternatives to more incarceration and defended the human rights of those in jail.
I think there's a lot of things that you can do. I think that you can have alternative sentencing. One, isolating them, punishing them does nothing for the community. You heard one woman there talk about how men come back and they're more volatile and more violent than when they left. We need to find ways to make people more loving and compassionate when they come back.
Last week, Eric Adams said that he believes Rikers should close in favor of borough-based jails. Curtis Lewa says he is against closing the jail complex.
Well, Westchester County Police today announcing the results of a crackdown on what they are calling obnoxious driving. This is some police dash cam video provided by the county showing officers pulling over drivers for trying to pass using the shoulder or cutting off people at exit ramps. All in all, about 350 summonses were issued.
And I just want to say that this 6-week campaign was not just a campaign for 6 weeks in the summer. It's something that our department takes seriously. It's something that our department plans on aggressively combating going forward.
All right, so officials say that county police officers, they have paid some special attention to vehicles and traffic violations along the Bronx River Parkway, the Sawmill, Hutchinson River Parkway, and also the Cross County Parkway for obnoxious driving.
Yeah, and obnoxious, and the police officers right back there watching the whole thing. And they're
watching them just cruise over, and then you see they try to go, oh. All right, well, new at 10, the Port Authority is putting the LaGuardia AirTrain project on hold.
Yeah, Governor Hochul has criticized the roughly $2 billion project, championed by her predecessor, Andrew Cuomo. Over the summer, the FAA issued environmental approval for it, but recently it asked the Port Authority to reconsider following a lawsuit by neighborhood and environmental groups.
Yeah, construction to build the elevated rail link between Manhattan and LaGuardia was set to begin sometime this year. Mayor de Blasio says he will begin the process of drastically overhauling the public schools' gifted and talented program immediately.
Yeah, the mayor says there'll be a period of community feedback, but the basic plan is this: no more testing 4-year-olds and no more special classrooms for gifted students until further notice. There'll also be extra training for teachers to do accelerated learning for advanced students in every classroom, with some specialized programming beginning in the 3rd grade.
Yeah, some parents and other lawmakers are pushing back. They say the program is crucial. It's a crucial stepping stone and should be expanded instead.
He's blowing up a program that has elevated thousands upon thousands of students out of poverty and onto successful lives.
Some parents say reversing the proposal should not be an issue once the mayor leaves office, but there is probably not enough time to expand gifted and talented by next year.
Well, still to come, sorry for the inconvenience. The message from Southwest CEO after days of frustration at airports across the country.
Plus, the number of Americans leaving their jobs hitting an all-time high right now. We're going to tell you the reason why just as soon as we come back.
And in an unprecedented move, the FDA approves e-cigarettes, while the agency says they could be helpful to some people. When we come back.
All right, Time now for your Strictly Business Report on this Tuesday. Starting off with a look at Wall Street. Stocks edging lower today. The Dow losing 118 points. Well, Southwest Airlines appears to be fixing problems that caused a cancellation of nearly 2,400 flights over the last 3 days. By the middle of today, there were less than 100 cancellations, but more than 400 flights were still running late. On Good Morning America, the airline CEO apologized for the travel disruptions, blaming a series of problems in Florida for messing up flight schedules. And Americans quit their jobs at a record pace in August. 4.3 million people said see you to their bosses, a number never seen before in records that are dating back to December 2000. The data strongly suggesting that as COVID cases surge, people left restaurants and hotels. Others flocked to other public-facing jobs such as retail and education instead. And actor William Shatner is scheduled to blast off into space come tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. Take a look at this video of Shatner. They're arriving at the Blue Origin Training Center in Van Horn, Texas today. The launch was supposed to happen today, but high winds delayed the mission. At 90 years old, the veteran Star Trek actor is set to become the oldest person in space. I'd love to see that. That is a great story. All right, always a good idea to get your holiday shopping done a little bit early. This year, though, retailers say it's more important than ever before. The pandemic's caused a microchip shortage and supply chain issues. They've been delaying shipments and orders to stores. In fact, some business owners saying that some customers have started their holiday shopping as far back as early August.
The supply chain issues are affecting all of us. We have got chocolates sitting on the water coming from Europe over here, orders that are only shipping 75% complete, when this time last year at least we had the orders coming through.
Shortages and price spikes have hit everything from lumber to computer chips to toilet paper. Retailers can't say it enough. You risk not finding what you need for Christmas the longer you decide to wait. And that is a look at tonight's Strictly Business Report. I don't think we've ever had those warnings this early before, have we?
Not really. No, Tamsin. All right. Well, the FDA has officially authorized the first electronic cigarettes in the United States. The agency saying the data submitted by R.J. Reynolds showed its e-cigarettes help smokers either quit or significantly reduce their use of regular cigarettes. This comes as part of a sweeping effort by the FDA to bring scientific scrutiny to the multi-billion-dollar vaping industry after years of regulatory delays.
All right, when we come back, the latest in the search for Gabby Petito's fiance.
Yeah, we're live in Florida where authorities continue to look for Brian Laundrie as a homicide investigation develops. Andy.
Coming up in sports, if you're wondering what's next for Aaron Boone, we might have some answers. Plus, we're going to check in with Zach Wilson and Kyrie Irving. Well, he's told to stay away from his team. We'll tell you why and why Kyrie refuses to get the vaccination. Sports is next.
We'll return now to one of the big stories of the day. A Wyoming coroner ruling Gabby Petito was strangled to death.
Yeah, reporter Brian Enton from News Nation has been extensively covering the Petito case from the very beginning. He joins us now live from Northport, Florida with the very latest tonight. Brian.
Yeah, I think a lot of people suspected that the cause of death would be strangulation, but still to hear the details today, to hear the Teton County, Wyoming coroner explain the details and also see it in black and white on the coroner's report, I mean, it really is disturbing to now learn that Gabby Petito did in fact die from strangulation. The other interesting thing that came out of this press conference today with the coroner was that he said the body was likely out there for 3 to 4 weeks before it was discovered. So once they found the body, they say it was 3 to 4 weeks before that that Gabby was likely killed. In terms of the investigation, he would not get into specifics because it's still very much under control by the FBI. He would only give very, very few details, but we know still no confirmed signs of Gabby's fiance, Brian Laundrie. There's been some reported sightings along the Appalachian Trail, some reported sightings in this area where we are in Florida, but the FBI have still not confirmed any of it. And at this point, no one seems to know where Brian Laundrie is.
Brian, let me ask you something. We talked a little bit earlier today about the timeline, and just as we look at that, is that giving police any indication, not only how long that she had been out there, but how long somebody had to kind of get away and be out of the picture?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And again, this new 3 to 4 week element that we know the body was there before it was discovered, according to the coroner, obviously has changed the timeline significantly. You also have to think about the fact that Gabby's family says that the final text messages from her, they don't believe were actually from her. She referred to her grandpa as Stan, which was his first name, but Gabby's mom says she would have never called her own grandpa Stan, and that was what was in one of the final text messages. So it's possible Gabby wasn't the one sending the text messages at the end, as this timeline still sort of works itself out.
And, you know, obviously the search is on for Brian Laundrie. I mean, is he even still alive? I mean, what's the thought? I know this guy was good in the woods, good as, you know, he knew what he was doing per se, but this guy wasn't necessarily an expert survivalist. So, I mean, you know, what are the odds that he's even alive right now?
Well, some people have referred to him as a survivalist. I mean, he loved camping his entire life. He was used to spending long periods of time outside. I interviewed the police here in Northport on Friday, and it was interesting. They said it was sort of a 50-50 chance that he was alive in their mind. 50% chance that he could be alive, 50% chance that he can be dead. It just seems like covering this for the last month, interviewing everyone you can pretty much imagine, it seems like at this point no one really knows whether he's dead or alive.
Wow.
Wow. All right. Brian Enton, thank you so much for that coverage.
All right, we'll be sure, of course, to stay with PIX11 for the very latest on the Gabby Petito case, including the search for Brian Laundrie. We will always have the latest information for you on air and online at PIX11.com. A lot of new twists today, that's for sure, you know?
Absolutely, no question about it. All right, the weather story seems like it's simpler, at least these days, and it's good, G.
Yeah, it's very good, but I don't want everybody to preclude that because it's been mild, will be mild the next couple of days, the winter is going to be that way. It just doesn't work that way. After October the 18th, we'll turn colder, and this is just a short respite, and let's enjoy it. 76 degrees was your high. The normal is 66. We're 3.5 degrees above normal. Is it a record? No. 86 has happened before in 1939, but the 64 is a big number. The humidity at 75%. Southerly breezes in the greatest town in the world at 5 miles per hour. Hey, look at tomorrow in the mid-70s with the sun. Go to the north, low to mid-70s. That'll be the deal. Dutchess County, Putnam County, Ulster, Columbia, Greene County, Nassau and Suffolk County, you're doing well as well. Now for Tuesday night, we're okay. That's of course tonight. Tomorrow, you'll be able to feature sun and clouds. Again, same drill. Clouds in the morning, sun burns through, and then on Thursday, more of a southwest fetch, and then the temperature begins to pop. We get really, really close to 80 degrees, and that's going to be for Thursday and Friday. Record, don't think so, but when you're flirting with 80 degrees in the middle of October, that is a gift from Mother Nature, and that's going to be ours. For the launch tomorrow, 9:30 a.m., Van Horn, West Texas, Blue Origin. 54 degrees, looks good for the launch. Visibility is good. A little speck of the autumn leaves, the splash of colors beginning here, peaks out third week of October. And we're lucking out. Like that transition? Huh? Peak out, lucking out. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday all look good.
So we were talking about it a little earlier. Nets told Kyrie Irving, you're either in or you're out. And for now, he's out. But now we're hearing reports as to why he won't get vaccinated. Apparently, he's upset that people are losing their jobs over their vaccination status, so upset that he decided to join them. Initially, the Nets were just going to allow Kyrie to play away games due to the city's COVID restrictions, but today that plan changed. Nets essentially laying down the hammer, and GM Sean Marks, he says they just didn't have much of a choice.
I don't know if there's ever a right time. I think we can all second guess of should this have been done weeks ago? Could we have waited longer? You know, I got to be honest, nobody knows. As many of you have said, this is uncharted territory, and we're doing the best we can with the information we're being given. And ultimately, we're trying to do what's best for this organization and the group of players that are moving forward here. And for those guys to be able to continue to perform, you know, for them to create chemistry, collaboration on the court. I think this is the fair time to do it, and to do it right now and move on.
Move on. You know, there's just no room for distraction, especially when you're trying to win a championship. That's always the goal. Yankees, they failed. But here's the thing. They had the talent. So who do you blame? The easy target, that would be Aaron Boone. Boone's contract is up, but his time with the Yankees apparently is not up, at least according to ESPN. Now, Hal Steinbrenner, he likes Boone, and apparently he blames the players for underperforming, not the manager. Again, Boone's contract expires in just a couple weeks, so the Yankees would have to give him an entirely new deal if they decide to keep him. Now, as for the Mets, we know where things stand. They're still looking for their man. They're still trying to hire a new president of baseball operations and a new manager. Now, Buck Showalter, he's interested, and that is interesting. He hasn't been a manager for the past 3 years, but he says he misses the dugout. Definitely a name to keep an eye on. And quickly, I want to talk about Kadarius Toney because it's been a crazy few days for the Giants receiver. He was great in Sunday's game, and then he punched a player, and then he got kicked out of the game that he just dominated. Watch the punch, and there it is. All right, well, today he was named Rookie of the Week and Offensive Player of the Week by Pro Football Focus. He's also up for the official Rookie of the Week award. So, Coach, your thoughts?
I think he's being very productive. He's a very talented player. I've said for a number of weeks that, especially that position, the receiver position, it takes some time to really learn the league. There's a lot of differences coming from college to the league for those positions. This guy's obviously has a lot of just natural ability. He's building a lot of technique, a lot of savvy. He's really understanding what the other teams are giving him, and he's making plays.
Yeah, and he's learning how to control his emotions. Coming up next, the Jets are off this week, which I'm sure sports fans like Matt and Johnny Lazarus are happy to hear. But Zach Wilson, not so happy. We'll check in with Zach right after the break. The Jets had the bye week, and simply put, Zach Wilson, he needed a break. We've seen these glimpses of greatness, but he's just in his head, and it doesn't work, especially because his whole game is predicated on his ability to do what he does. That ability to just dance out there. Granted, he's a rookie, but you know what? If he keeps this up, he's going to break Peyton Manning's record for rookie interceptions. He's thrown 9 in just the last 5 games. Now, the bye week, a good time to sort of reflect, get a little introspective. And Wilson is doing just that. He actually says he's just thinking too much and just needs to let it fly.
For the most part, it's the mindset of me just being able to throw the ball and not aiming where I'm throwing that ball and just playing confidently and just being able to rip it and understand that it's there just like we have been, and just getting into that flow and understanding that we're a good offense that can do a lot of good things.
Paralysis by analysis. Finally, hockey is back. Puck dropped on the NHL season tonight. Rangers open up their season tomorrow against Washington. Islanders play Thursday in Carolina. Devils host Chicago on Friday. And that's a quick look at sports. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
Andy, thanks.
And thank you so much for joining us for the PIX11 News at 10. I'm Corey Chambers.
And I'm Tamsin Fidel. Seinfeld's coming up next for you. Have a good night.